Welcome, everyone, to another edition of White Horse Live, coming to you from White Horse Black Mountain. This evening is the 38th episode of White Horse Live, hosted as always by Bob Hinkle and co-produced by White Horse Black Mountain and Rad House Studio. Tonight, we welcome back pianist Dr. Daniel Weiser and cellist Franklin Keel for this special three-part miniseries showcasing the cello and piano works of Beethoven in celebration of the 250th anniversary of his birth. We're very glad to be open again to the public. However, seating at White Horse is very limited due to ongoing COVID safety recommendations. We'll continue to offer these programs as live online streams. Now more than ever, our artists rely on your tips. They can't hear your applause if you're watching this at home, so your tips are the best way to show your appreciation for them. The best way to do that is to navigate your web browser to whitehorselive.tips. Not .com, not tips.com, just whitehorselive.tips, and we'll display the tip jar address from time to time during the show. Thank you for helping make this series a success. We're grateful for your help in spreading the word. Please keep sharing the event notices, hosting live watch parties, and telling all your friends. Now here's your host, Bob Hinkle.
You know, AmiciMusic means music between friends. The company has a part of its mission to bring world-class chamber music to places where it doesn't usually get heard. Thanks to AmiciMusic, White Horse Black Mountain, where they sold cars 60 years ago, is not just a member of the Carburetor Hall of Fame, but we're in the Chamber Music and Hairtonic Secret Society. A little buckle do you. For 11 years now, founder and artistic director Dr. Daniel Weiser has brought White Horse the best. Tonight's program is a part of an incredible 3-episode Beethoven extravaganza. Between this evening, Saturday evening at 7:30, and Sunday at 3 p.m., we'll feature AmiciMusic founder and artistic director Dr. Daniel Weiser on piano and the extraordinary Franklin Keel on cello. We'll hear the entire works of Ludwig van Beethoven for cello and piano. We have notified the Guinness Book of Records, as I'm pretty sure this will be the first time in the history of the world this magnificent body of music has been performed in a former Chevrolet dealership. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, guinea pigs and goldfish, and all other couch sitters that are out there, please, if you would, a warm, virtual White Horse Live round of applause for the man of few words, Dr. Daniel Weiser.
Thank you, Bob, and to Rebecca from Rad House Studios, everybody here at White Horse for trying to keep music live during this difficult time, especially as we go to get another wave of this disease. And you should all be wearing masks. I'm not wearing one just because it's hard to play and see the fog in my glasses. Franklin and I are socially distanced, so we are not wearing masks. But please do wear them. It will help us save many lives in the future. Tonight is the beginning of this epic journey that few have taken, few have chosen to take, but Franklin and I decided to be a little crazy because we really wanted to celebrate the great Beethoven, who unfortunately did not get as many celebrations as he should have this year at his 250th birth because of the pandemic. But he will be turning 250 on December 16th, so coming up soon. And so we're going to do over the next three nights, 3 concerts, all the works that he wrote for cello and piano, which comprise 5 really important sonatas, as well as 3 different sets of variations, two on tunes by Mozart and 1 on a tune by Handel. Tonight's concert will just feature his earliest of those sonatas, Sonata number 1 and 2, both Opus 5, so they're very early in Beethoven's work. What's nice about these sonatas, tonight is sort of the first period of Beethoven. Our next concert on Saturday night is the middle phase, as we call it, the heroic phase, with his epic A major sonata, his most famous, the 3rd sonata, really at a time when he was writing Eroica and the 5th Symphony and all of those major works. And then our final concert will comprise the fourth and fifth sonatas that were written in his last phase, when he began to sort of really experiment much more with what he was doing, taking music into a realm that few people understood at the time when he was writing it. But tonight is music that is really more of the classical period, but with Beethoven putting his own stamp on it, and again making it the way that he really heard it in his head. These were written in 1796. Beethoven had been born in Bonn, Germany in 1770. His father was sort of a musician, not a very great musician there in Bonn, but a very good alcoholic, and he managed to sort of beat his son into playing some music, had hoped Beethoven would be the next Mozart, this wonderful child prodigy who would travel around the Europe sitting on the laps of the queens and the princes. Beethoven was not like that, but Beethoven had incredible genius, was writing music at the age of 11 and 12, which was incredible, but ultimately Beethoven needed to escape from Bonn, get away from his father, and he headed to Vienna in 1792. Originally hoping that he could study with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but unfortunately Mozart dies in December of 1791. So those two great composers never did get to work together. He instead begins to study with Franz Joseph Haydn, then the greatest of the living classical composers, and they did not get along too well. He worked with him for about 6 months. Beethoven had his own ideas already at a young age about where he wanted music to go, and though he was sort of following the form of classical music and the structure, he was pushing the envelope towards a more romantic phase that he would really sort of help bring in. And Haydn would yell at him saying, "You've got to write more charming music." He knew that this kid was talented, but he thought that he was pushing too hard on the audiences in Vienna, and ultimately they sort of break up their relationship. He actually studies with a couple other people, including one wonderful guy named Albrechtsberger, who has been mostly forgotten as a composer, but he taught Beethoven for a while, and he also had a difficult time getting anything into Beethoven's head, and he once said famously, "This Beethoven never has learned anything and never will learn anything. As a composer, he is completely hopeless." Famous last words by a kind of a second, maybe a fourth-rate composer himself. Beethoven really was made his way at first as a piano player. And in fact, he was revolutionary in the way he played the piano, using his whole body, not just his fingers as Mozart and Haydn did, so that oftentimes when he would play in concerts, pianos would crumble under the weight, the power of his playing. And in fact, it's to Beethoven that we owe this modern piano, as piano makers had to develop these instruments that Beethoven could not destroy. But there's a wonderful story of Anton Reicha, who was actually turning pages once for Beethoven, and he said the following. Beethoven asked me to turn pages for him one night while he was playing a Mozart concerto, but I was mostly occupied in wrenching the strings of the piano which had snapped, while the hammers stuck among the broken strings. Beethoven insisted on finishing the concerto, so back and forth I leaped, jerking out a string, disentangling a hammer, turning a page. I think I worked harder than Beethoven. But ultimately, and Beethoven did also have several students as a piano teacher, most of them kind of the noble women who he usually fell in love with, but some of them he did not think were very talented. And there's a very famous, wonderful saying he said to one of them, saying, "You are going to have to practice long and faithfully before you realize that you cannot play the piano." A teacher you really don't want to have, Mr. Beethoven. But this, what we're going to start off with is the F major sonata, Opus 5. And this came about from a trip that Beethoven took in 1796. He wanted to get out of Vienna and explore some other options. So he took a trip to Prague and Dresden and Leipzig, ultimately ending up in Berlin. And it turns out that in Berlin, at the court of Friedrich Wilhelm, who was a very musical leader, there were several very good cellists, including the Duport brothers, Jean-Pierre Duport and Jean-Louis Duport, who were sort of very revolutionary in what they could play on the piano, virtuosic, sort of bringing new sounds out of the cello, using what we call their thumb to go really high up on the fingerboard, so they could play much higher than other people had. And up until this point, there really had been very few pieces where the cello had the main melody. It was not considered a melodic instrument. It was an accompanying instrument. Mozart and Haydn never wrote any sonatas for cello and piano. But Beethoven seemed to be inspired by Jean-Louis Duport. And he then sort of takes, these were the first sonatas that Beethoven wrote that were not just piano sonatas. So he saw something in the cello. And of course, it's very difficult. The cello and the piano are sometimes hard to mix because the range of the cello sometimes gets obliterated by what the piano is doing. So he had to put the cello up high, and then he was writing very virtuosically for himself. And even though these are very equal in many ways, the piano, he made it clear that this was all about himself most of the time because he was Beethoven. And he wanted to show off, but he did give some wonderful melodies to the cellist as well. So this piece we're going to do the F major one and then the G minor. They're both very similar in their form. They're only 2 movements long, but these movements last forever. He was always trying to sort of push the boundaries. So the first movement of both pieces start out with this very slow section, which was not normal. Normally, if you were starting a first movement, it would be fast and exciting. Then there'd be a slow second movement and then a faster third movement. But Beethoven sort of condensed that first movement into one big thing, starting with a slow section, then going into the faster section, and then there's a second movement that's a more light and rondo form. And Duport, there's a wonderful quote by Voltaire about the cellist who said about this cellist, "You make me believe in miracles, for I see that you can turn an ox into a nightingale." And so Duport must have been something very special, and Beethoven really went out to write this incredible sonata. So we're going to let you sit and hear this wonderful F major sonata, and then we'll bring up the G minor afterwards. It's a great pleasure to always have with me this incredible cellist who lives right here in Asheville, grew up here in Asheville, has been a member of the Asheville Symphony, assistant principal, still plays with Sirius B, correct? Yep, fantastic gypsy, funk, absurdist, folk, whatever band, and just one of the great colleagues. And so I really appreciate Franklin going along with this crazy ride to play all of these. It is a really epic journey. We hope you enjoy it starting tonight, then Saturday and Sunday. And again, please check out whitehorselive.tips. We'd love to be able to see your help, see your support, supporting also White Horse and Ride House. So please sit back and enjoy Beethoven's F Major Sonata, Opus 5, number 1. Thank you. We have a live audience. That's so exciting. Small, but so appreciative. Thank you for being here. And thanks to all of you out there who are watching the live stream. And again, whitehorselive.tips if you're able to help support both the musicians, the White Horse, Roundhouse Studios all together. It really takes a family, a community to make these concerts possible. It's just a great joy to be able to play that music and to feel the excitement in Beethoven there as he was sort of just reveling and sometimes having just a lot of fun making these moments, what we call these Beethoven crescendos, where he would build and then suddenly go very quiet, just to shock the audiences who were not used to hearing those kind of things, and the great differences in louds and soft. This was, again, the new style that was Haydn sort of said, no, you have to be tasteful, nothing too extreme, but Beethoven didn't think taste was all that important. He had something else that he wanted to show. But Beethoven himself, as a pianist, was not only a great pounder of pianos, but also could play incredibly beautiful things. There's a wonderful quote by Carl Czerny, one of his students, who then became a composer himself. He once said, in whatever company Beethoven might chance to be, he knew how to produce such an effect upon every hearer that frequently not an eye remained dry, while many would break out into loud sobs, for there was something wonderful in his expression, in addition to the beauty and originality of his ideas and his spirited style of rendering them. But after ending an improvisation of this kind, he would then burst into loud laughter and banter his hearers on the emotion he had caused unto them. You are fools, he would say. Who can live among such children, he would cry. So just the cruelty of Beethoven sometimes, who could write music that was so beautiful that people just couldn't help it. And he just thought that was fun to watch. He just reveled in watching them cry. Now, what's fascinating about this trip, some new authors have thought that we know that when he came back from Berlin, he was very sick. He had nausea, it was vomiting, high fever, and he recovered from that. But there are some new speculations that actually while he was in Berlin, it was a very hot summer, he might have gotten murine typhus, that's known, a type of typhus that is borne by fleas biting you. It causes the sickness, which then goes away, but it also, in about 15 to 20% of patients, can cause neurological damage in different parts that may not show up for several years. And there are several writers who believe that this may have begun to cause the hearing loss that started shortly after this. We'll see in the next concert when we play the A major sonata, which he wrote as this deafness was really becoming a part of his life, and he knew he was going to have to fight it, how important that trip was for that. Now, we're going to move to this, our final work, which is, again, another epic piece, the G Minor Sonata, similar in form, but even more expanded and more expressive and emotional. The opening slow part really should be its own movement. It lasts a long time, and it really just feels like a whole slow movement, but it directly goes into the fast part of the first movement, so we consider it all one movement. There's something really important to listen for. At the end of that first slow section in this piece, there are some really long moments of silence, almost uncomfortable moments where nothing happens. And it really is Beethoven sort of forcing his listeners into this kind of uncomfortable place. At the time, people weren't always listening to this kind of music. It was sort of background, kind of like what we think of jazz brunches. And Beethoven really wanted to make sure that his people were listening carefully. And so you'll hear these long moments of silence there where you're wondering if we've just forgotten what to do next. But we know it's coming. It's just these glorious moments. And for Beethoven, often, the silence was just as important as the notes he was playing. He wanted to express that. And later composers took this upon them. Debussy always said, music is the silence between notes. And then, of course, John Cage came up with his piece, 4 minutes and 29 seconds of complete silence as somebody sits at the piano. But Beethoven was really one of the first to look at silence as actual part of the music. one other nice thing that when he came back from Berlin, he was given a present by King Friedrich Wilhelm, who he dedicated these sonatas to. He didn't get a lot of money, but it was a snuff box full of golden coins. And Beethoven was kind of impressed by the snuff box. He told a friend, "This was no ordinary snuff box, but such a one as might have been customary to give a real ambassador." So he was not immune to these moments of excitement and and there was a chance, actually, that King Friedrich Wilhelm there in Berlin was going to hire Beethoven to be the kind of court composer in Berlin, which would have been a big thing. But unfortunately, Wilhelm dies a year later, and that never really comes about. But Beethoven would get back to Vienna at this time, and this is when he began to see music as a higher calling than just a bunch of notes. He once said, "Music is the wine which inspires us to new generative processes, and I am Bacchus, who presses out this glorious wine for mankind and makes them spiritually drunk." So we hope you can get drunk with us on this next piece. Again, it's an epic journey as through this very beautiful slow movement, and that begins it into this more exciting part of the first movement. And then a very fun rondo, which really explores lots of great dialogue. I think even more the unity of the cello and the piano come together here, where it's not so much of a piano concerto. He really begins to have more and more conversations between the piano and the cello. So we hope you enjoy this, and we hope you will tune in on a Saturday night. We will be finishing that performance with the third sonata, the A major sonata, Opus 69, one of the great, great works for cello and piano ever written. But we'll start that concert actually with two variations that he wrote on tunes from the Magic Flute by Mozart. Beethoven loved Mozart's music, and he sort of paid homage to him, but with these two early variations that were written around this time. And then on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, come back. We're going to push the envelope a lot in that last concert. Those last two sonatas he writes, some thought he was deaf when he was writing them, because he was certainly more and more deaf, but there are moments that really, even today, sound so modern and so advanced that they feel like a different composer than the ones you're hearing tonight. So really, to understand the greatness of Beethoven, come and hear all of those, and please check out whitehorselive.tips. Please sit back and enjoy Opus 5, number 2, the G Minor Sonata, number 2, by Ludwig van Beethoven. Thank you to everyone here as a live audience. Thank you to everyone out at the live stream. And again, I hope you can join us on Saturday night for part 2 of our epic journey through the great works of Ludwig van Beethoven. Thanks for being a part of it. Check out whitehorselive.tips to help make a donation. Come back and see us on Saturday.
All right. Hey, Daniel, thank you. Both of you. Terrific. One more hand of applause, if you would.
Thank you to Franklin Keel.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for joining us. Be with us again tomorrow night, as Daniel said, for part 2.
No, Saturday night.
Saturday night. You can be here tomorrow night if you want to, but there won't be anybody here.
We haven't practiced that yet.
Yeah, that's right. For part 2 of Daniel and Franklin, bringing the Beethoven. There'll be no Between the Cushions contest this week. Our chief judge has gone off to the Woolly Worm Festival. I think he's afraid he hasn't been reelected, but he'll be back next week. But don't stop feeling around in between the cushions of your couch, because we need to know what crazy stuff you found there. And don't throw it away unless it smells or if it bites you. And remember, if you don't believe in magic, realize that mask spelled backwards is Kassam. Say it 3 times loud out in the street, and you'll probably get arrested for disturbing the virus. Have a nice night. Bye now.
Thanks for joining us for White Horse Live. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and for those of you here in person, we hope you enjoyed being back at White Horse, and that you're with us for dozens more years to come. This program is produced by White Horse Black Mountain and by Rad House Studio. Bob Hinkle is your host and executive producer. Claire Hoke is audio engineer. Jessica Wharton is director of photography. Jessica Fox is key grip. Public Relations Services provided by Maggie Rainwater at Hoosier Devil. I'm Rebecca Hillgraves, director and producer for these programs. Special thanks to Nathan Kirkley, who provides liquid refreshment to the White Horse audience and staff, and who also helped put the bar back together and a good bit of other features in the building as we were getting ready to open to the public. Thank you, Nathan. And also to Craig Rumney, who manages the box office and keeps things goofy. We like to call him the Craigerator. And join us Saturday evening, as Bob said, at 7:30 for the second of this 3 special all Beethoven programs from pianist Dr. Daniel Weiser and cellist Franklin Keel, right here on White Horse Live. In the meantime, be good to each other, and that includes all people.